to my channel. And if you're new here, hello, my name is Nikki Valentine. I am an alchemist and transformation coach, and we are going to get into something today that I'm very passionate about, so you might see my hands flying all over the place, which is lies and manipulation coming out of the spiritual community on social media. And here's why this burns me and just chaps my kneecaps. I have been a coach for 8 years. I have seen hundreds of people, and when people come to me and I hear some of the spiritual advice they were given that made them feel more lost than when they started, put them on the wrong track, victim blame them, it makes me furious. Because there are people out here who are spreading information so that they look like a guru or gifted, or they can read you and essentially just make money, and sending people misguided messages. So we're going to talk today about some of the most toxic spiritual narratives on social media. Now, this first one really upsets me because my first degree is in human development psychology. I studied people, literally, for my degree, okay? And then I went back and I studied business. But here's what I know about studying people. Trauma plays a part. So when I hear people say, you attract what you are, it burns me. And let me tell you why. The basis of it is true. What they're referring to is the law of attraction, which says we attract to us that which is in like frequency to us. Not who you are, your frequency, meaning your dominant vibration. And if you don't know what that means, when we talk about vibration and frequency, what we're talking about is multiple doctors have done this, and I'll put the reference tags up here or up here in the video in post. But there has been so much research done around the actual frequency that can be measured in difference between emotions. So for example, anger and apathy are some of the lowest frequency. As you rise in consciousness and in levels of measured frequency, you get up to like love, joy, peace, all of those things, right? So there is actually a measurement of the frequency that different emotions emit from our bodies into the electromagnetic field. And some of those are high in frequency or vibration, and some of those are low. Because atoms activate when they're observed, if we are observing matter based on this vibration, yes, we will then get reactions that are similar to that frequency. Here's what that doesn't take into account. Trauma. That is not trauma informed. That is just a raw interpretation of a spiritual law and applying it to human beings, which we should never do. Here's why. You learn how to relate to people before the age of 7. Past that point, it becomes embedded into your subconscious of how you should relate to others and give and receive love. Meaning, if your caregivers, the people who are responsible for you before the age of 7, showed you a broken, damaged, or confused way of loving and relating to people, you will attract people, relationships, and experiences that feel familiar to your subconscious mind. Unfortunately, the thing that feels familiar to your subconscious mind is toxic. So you're not attracting what you are, you're attracting what you've learned, and because of what you've learned, you don't have the boundaries to resist that, or maybe even the awareness to see that it's familiar to you because it's toxic. So when we try to use a spiritual law and we twist it into things like dating, oh, this person is just treating you badly because of your vibration. I actually heard this from a client and it hurt me so deeply. That he was in a relationship with an individual who there was some rupture and repair going on, and there wasn't as much accountability on his partner's part that he would have liked to see. And he said, well, I've talked to other spiritual people and they told me it's my frequency and my vibration. And you know what I said? Okay, if somebody were abusing your child in any way, would you tell them the same thing? No, you would never blame someone's vibration for abusive or negative behavior. You might be tolerating that behavior because it feels familiar to you, but that's not a match for your vibration. And here's why. Let's break this down even further. A person can be at a high vibration, meaning on a regular basis, they feel good most of the time. They exhibit positive emotions, so their dominant vibration is good. However, they are making choices out of a traumatized state. Here's what I mean by that. I know people who are avoidant because of how they were raised, but they have been in a relationship for many years happily being avoidant. And they manifest all the things because technically their vibration is very high, even though they have a traumatized pattern for their relationship. Do you see how those two things can be true at once? Meanwhile, there are people who, unfortunately, the type of trauma they experience cause them to pick a partner who actively is depleting their vibration. So not only are they in a toxic relationship, but they also have a negative vibration. Some people actually thrive in toxicity, believe it or not, because they have the ability to block that out and not have it actually affect their vibration. So when we over prescribe spirituality and we just throw things on people without considering psychology and the development of humans and trauma, we start to victim blame in the name of spirituality. And I hate that for us. Let's not do that anymore, okay? So that's the first one I wanted to get out there, because it is very short-sighted and it is not a complete understanding of how that spiritual law even works in the first place. So there's number one. Number two, though, is you didn't manifest it because you weren't trying hard enough or because your vibration wasn't high enough. This is wrong as well. And let me tell you why. Your vibration isn't the only factor in something manifesting. Now here's where we get even deeper, right? Yes, you can attract things to you that are similar to you in frequency. That is different than trying to manifest a very specific thing or scenario, because there's a lot more that goes into that. Let's use dating as an example. You have a kind of individual that you have very clear in your mind that you want, you think you deserve, you've cleared your blocks, you've done your affirmations. You keep meeting that kind of person, but it never works out with any of those particular individuals. Is it because you're not trying hard enough and your vibration isn't high enough? No. You know why? There are other factors at play. Those people might not be the folks that you were assigned or predestined to be with. Being with those people might take you off track of your purpose. Being with those people might be a violation of your soul contract, because there could actually be a soulmate that you came down here to partner with and those people were not it. Manifesting is co-creation between you and God, you and the universe, you and source, you and divine. Call it whatever you want. You are not Harry Potter. It is not a magic wand that you just wave and the very things that you want to happen exactly as you want them to happen every single time, right? And here's the funny part. Even if you manifest that way, because it is possible to bend matter to your will, the problem is, and this happens to a lot of people, you manifest things you think you want and it ruins your life. Here's a great example. The lady that coined the phrase very demure, very mindful went so viral on TikTok that it caused her to fall into depression, addiction, and she said it ruined her life, getting that much money and going that viral at one time. Now, I'm sure it would have been in her dreams to go viral, and you technically manifested that, but you see how it wasn't for your highest good. Manifesting in its pure and most accurate form is co-creation between you and the divine for the thing you want or whatever is for your higher good. I'll tell you a good story about that. Because I've been doing media a long time, I've done podcasts, studio podcasts, panel podcasts, you name it. My videos have been ripped and put on the radio. So I've always thought TV would be the next natural progression, right? So I set about manifesting that. And I almost did. I was actually contracted to do an episode of Love and Hip Hop Miami. I coached 2 of the cast members. And they flew me to Miami. I did the episode. It was amazing. It was with Trina and her husband, who, as a girly that lived in South Florida for 20 years, that was an amazing moment, full circle moment, because I grew up listening to her music. She's wonderful. Her husband is wonderful. Now, I, like everyone else, had to sit around for 6 months to see if that was going to air. In between that time, because I hadn't watched that show in many years since it came out, I didn't realize the content of the show. Let's just say Ratchet Mondays still continues, okay? And the show has gotten more scandalous since it started. I didn't know what my coaching session would have been in the middle of. And after 6 months, what happened is it actually didn't air. There was a bit of an edit to how they did that. I'll leave that to their business because I did sign some paperwork. But my episode didn't air. And I ended up actually being grateful for that, because while I thought that would have changed my life and done all the things, it might have ruined my reputation. Because all of the stuff going on the rest of the season of the show wasn't necessarily positive. And then you would have had me in the mix with that. And we don't know how that would have been edited or presented to meet the rest of the content standards of the show. So did I not manifest getting on TV because I didn't try hard enough? No. God and I created something together. We proved that the thing can happen, except there is something in my soul contract that says it's not this way that you're going to do TV. We need you to do TV in a very, very, very clean way. So we're going to prepare you. You're going to get to see it. You're going to get the experience, but this is not the final manifestation of that, because that's not what's for your highest good. And a lot of people don't understand that about manifesting, is that you still have a purpose. You still have a soul contract. You still have things that you came here to do and to not do. And so, yes, we have free will, but it sort of has to fall into that beautiful tapestry of the life that our soul decided to have when we came down here. So again, to recap, I hear people say, you didn't manifest it because you didn't try hard enough. Sure, maybe you can further tweak your beliefs to be more positive. You can inspect where you don't believe you could have it. You can clear your energy to feel more positive, for your dominant vibration to be more positive. But sometimes you don't get a thing you want because it's not what you're supposed to have. And that is just as universally profound as any spiritual law. And don't let anybody tell you any different. Okay? Now, number 3 and 4 is a hot topic. It's gonna get very hot, and I want y'all to drop down in the comments and let me know what you think, because this has gone so far in the grift in spirituality that there's been cults formed around this. There have now been Netflix documentaries about the cults that were around this, and here's what it is: twin flames. Okay, I'm gonna try to keep my vitriol to a low, because that term has turned into something so insipid and disgusting because of fake gurus who want to sell you things, who are basically twisted versions of dating coaches, but with a, linen suit on. And here's the concept. Twin flames, per ancient spiritual texts, are one soul that came down here and incarnated, split into 2 bodies. And should those 2 bodies meet this one soul, there will be a very intense attraction, a very tumultuous, possibly very toxic, very torrid relationship, because that person is supposed to serve as a mirror to you for things that you need to work on in yourself for your soul's evolution. Here's where people twisted that concept. They twisted it to justify their bullshit ass relationships. This is my YouTube channel, so I can curse. Okay? People are using that term to justify emotional, mental, physical abuse, to justify toxic relationships, to justify people who treat you poorly, who you really should leave by the trash can. That's my twin flame. I'm supposed to be learning from him. Let me tell you how I know this to be true. I have been in a relationship in which, per the definition, you could say was my twin flame. But here's the detail people leave out when they talk about the definition of a twin flame. Typically, those encounters are short-lived. They are not supposed to be permanent. And also, it's not always romantic. Your twin flame can be somebody who is a mentor that you meet or who is a friend. It's not always in a romantic setting. But for some reason, when people talk about it, it's always that toxic MF you're dating is your twin flame. We don't actually go to the full expanse of the definition because it doesn't serve our BS narrative. Okay? Typically, if that person is your twin flame, you're supposed to see yourself, learn the thing, and move on. Not try to force a thing to work because, oh, that's my twin flame. I should make it work. I should make it work. No. No. Learn what you need to learn and get on. And also, that's quite rare. So the fact that everyone thinks they're with their twin flame, quite rare. This is where we get to number 4, the idea of soulmates. Our understanding of soulmates is so twisted and Disney-fied that it has taken us away from the spiritual origin of it, which is this. We all come to this planet with a soul family, meaning a group of 5, 6, up to 10 souls that we're supposed to do this experience with. And if you believe in reincarnation, every time you come back with those souls plus or minus 1 or 2, right? But same characters, different play. Maybe 1 or 2 of those will be romantic. They'll also show up as family, friends, mentors, colleagues, people you work with, people you meet randomly in the street, people you have a connection with, but it never actually worked out as a long-term relationship, right? It is not always your boyfriend, your girlfriend, your non-binary friend. Okay? Here's also a fact. Fun factoid. You don't come to every lifetime with your soulmate. We all have one, but we don't choose to incarnate with them every single time. There is a strong chance that your soulmate isn't here. That was actually the most liberating thing I've ever learned. Actually. Because the amount of pressure we put on finding my soulmate, he might not even be down here. And now I'm wasting my whole life trying to find this brother. Silly. Why don't I just live my life? There's a really good show on Netflix about this called Soulmates, where it's set in the future where they have a technology that can actually scan all of humanity and figure out who your soulmate is. So you take this test and it tells you who your soulmate is, but it doesn't match you unless the other person takes the test. This is a really interesting show because there were people who were married and took the test and figured out their soulmate is different than the person they were married to, blew up their whole marriage, left their spouse to go find and be with this soulmate, and then realized that the relationship didn't work out and that they missed their ex and that they actually had a way better life with the person that they chose to be with and not their soulmate. It was amazing. That show is like a limited series, has 6 episodes. But I'll tell you, very few of the soulmate couples actually worked out. And I love that they did such an accurate representation of that. And I think it was done to help people understand this concept of someone can be your soulmate and be incompatible with you. Someone can be your soulmate and not want to do the work. Someone can be your soulmate and live halfway across the world and you really don't want to or can uproot your entire life to be with them. There can just be people you like more. They can be your soulmate and they're not supposed to be with you for life. I have met people like that. I have met men who I know are part of my soul tribe and that we were not meant to stay together forever. Hard pill to swallow, but that's actually the more spiritual realization than trying to stuff this person into a container of you have to be my forever boo because you're my soulmate. That's not always the case. And when I'm talking about, like, this was a person that I immediately had a soul recognition on day one. You want to hear some spooky crap? When I was with my former partner, I was engaged. Literally met him on vacation. The first night I flew home, we had never spoken on the phone. I fly home, my flight lands at like 10, 11 p.m. I go to sleep. I wake up at 5:15 in the morning, and I remember specifically the time because I looked at my phone and I'm like, oh my God, I'm still so tired. I haven't had enough sleep. Within 30 seconds of me looking at my phone, it starts ringing, and it's him. And he picks up, and I'm like, hello? And he's like, what's wrong? I said, what? He's like, I just woke up out of my sleep and I feel like there's something wrong with you and I needed to call you. Mind you, I had known this man for 4 days. Just give him my number, first phone call. So there are people whose souls are so entwined with mine that we aren't supposed to stay together forever. I've met people like that since who I've had short interactions with, and it's like, whew, my soul really recognizes you and I learned so much from you in a short period of time, but I am positive we're not supposed to be together. People don't leave room for that because we Disneyfy a soulmate to mean that's your person, you should stay with them forever, and no matter how they treat you, just hang in there. No. Soulmates are people we come into this planet with to help evolve us as a soul, to help us learn more about ourselves and about God and about this experience down here. It doesn't mean holding hands in the sand every time. So don't try to fit a square peg in a round hole by calling it a soulmate. Okay, so those two things are my 3 and 4 because I find that to just be really dangerous, and it's keeping a lot of people in relationships that they really have no business being in. Now, number 5. Here's where we get a little tiny bit messy, but I'm only gonna get messy on 2 out of 7 points. Okay, and it is the concept of the guru. The reason I didn't want to talk about my NDE or my spiritual gifts or being able to channel or any of those things, my clients have known this for years because it happens in session and they get my intuitive downloads, but I never talked about it on the internet because I never wanted to be one of these fake ass gurus that's out here on the internet, to simply put it, okay? I just watched a documentary about Jay Shetty, and it turns out he was a Hare Krishna while he was in business school. Aren't you supposed to give up the matrix of life and go meditate in the corner? No, homeboy was meditating and in business school, then graduated and worked at Accenture, which is like the most corporate of corporations of all time, giving corporate workshops on meditation. The man had a plan and a grift from the frigging beginning, okay? We see that Deepak is in the files 3,000 times, okay? I don't know what's going on with homeboy, but that can't be good, okay? There are so many people who have taken spirituality as a grift and are leading people astray and are making millions off of it. But here's really the problem, because I don't have a problem with anybody getting their money. Here's what is a problem. Selling the idea that you are a guru that God has picked out, handpicked, because you're more special than everybody, and none of us can access divine information if not through you. We have to worship you and do your program because you're the only person who has this info and is deep enough and you've had the experience, right? That's BS. We all are able to connect to the divine. We're all able to communicate with the divine. We're all able to be in relationship with God. We can all take that as deeply as we choose to because all of us are biologically wired that way. Now, are there people down here who are spiritually gifted? Yes. Yes, I'm one of them. But here's the difference. That's not a marker of hierarchy. It is a job. I'd rather chew my arm off than be on here giving y'all channel messages. Do you know that? I've been on social media for years and I've never talked about this stuff. But it's that God and my spirit guides are pressing on me to do so. And so now we're talking about spiritual matters in public. I would have rather chew my arm off at the elbow, I'm telling you. This is not what I wanted to come on here and do, but it's important. And because I was given the gift of channeling, I have to give the messages that were given to me. I just shared a channeled message on here on YouTube that I got in 2019. I'm a little late. Bear with me. You'll be getting more of those downloads soon because I got to empty the clip because it is a job. You're supposed to use those gifts to be of service. It doesn't mean I am any more special than anybody else. In fact, what it means is I got more work to do. Okay? I'm being given messages that I need to give to people because it's supposed to hit their soul. It's not about me at all. That's an extra job. I am honored to do so, but it's an extra job. So when people say things like, oh, I wish I had a gift like that person, or I wish I was special like that person, baby, you are special. You just weren't given an extra job. Be thankful, a little piece, just saying. Because anybody who takes that high honor and that job as a way to feed your ego and make you special and make you feel like you're elevated above people, not good. You're not doing the thing you were set out here to do. I think we all have things that look like spiritual gifts. High pattern recognition, precognition, being able to detect danger, your intuition. We all have that. We all are wired for that. There are just some who it's online in a very prevalent and forward way because there is something that's supposed to be given of service through that message. That's all. That's all. It's not that any of these people are so much more special than you or so much more enlightened. Let me tell you something. If you meet somebody who has reached enlightenment, you haven't, because they wouldn't be here. They would have ascended. Like Enoch, just plucked up off the planet. Enoch didn't die. That's why that book of the Bible is left out, but that's another story for another day. Okay? So if anybody acts like, oh, I'm the ultimate guru and you can't reach spiritual knowledge or depth or enlightenment except for through me, run, not walk from that person. If a person tries to use their spiritual gifts and make themselves more important or higher in some sort of hierarchy, run, not walk. Because they don't understand why they were given that gift and that high honor in the first place. It's to be of service. I would quit. You see how quick my fingers went? That's how quick you should run away from people like that. I'm just saying, run very fast. Which leads me to my last point. The manipulative aesthetic that comes with a lot of spiritual people. And the crappy message it's sending is there is a look to be spiritual. You can't be spiritual and look like XYZ. You have to be wearing your crystals and white all the time, and you have to be on a yoga mat, and you have to eat granola, and you have to be vegan, and you have to be in meditation and prayer for 6 hours a day, and you have to say love and light, namaste, all grand rising, queen, you have to talk in a really soft voice like this, love and light, you guys, oh my God. That's BS. Can we just say that? That is BS. That is BS. That is BS. Let me tell you about this BS. There is no way to look spiritual. Mother Teresa rode around via private jet. How do you think she got to all those countries so fast helping all them people? Not on a commercial flight, not on Spirit. Does that not look spiritual? I actually sat with Deepak Chopra at a place I worked, and he came in to do, for our corporation, to do a meditation. I sat in front of his actual face, and you know what my coworker discovered, my ex-coworker? That he was wearing Rafe Simon sneakers that were like $3,000. Okay? I have seen people who are profoundly spiritual still make themselves up, still express themselves through fashion, through clothing, through art, still talk the way they talk. If y'all want to look up a real spiritual diva, Google Queen Afua, who has been a thought leader and a vegan warrior and the creator of the Sacred Woman program. If you like Erykah Badu, you actually like Queen Afua, because Erykah Badu was one of her first initiates into that program. She's mother. You think Erykah Badu is mother? Queen Afua is the mother. But she's still from Brooklyn. She still makes herself up and looking gorgeous and wearing her fabrics and her robes and doing a headstand and still dancing around at 75 years old. Because you know why? Being spiritual isn't a look. It's a vibration. It is a way of life. That is actually one of the things I learned from her. I was around several girls who were in the Sacred Woman program, and I've had the joy of meeting her several times and doing programming with her and her sons. And you can feel it on her. Queen Afua doesn't have to say anything. She doesn't have to wear a special outfit. Her sons either, Supernova and Ra, shout out to them. Clean, vesseled people. And if you go to her son's page, he actually has a brand called Super Mega. I think it's like a greens powder. Phenomenal. They're all vegan, the entire family. He was ex-military, ex-gang banging, all these things, and he brings all of that into his divine knowledge, and he helped co-write Man Heal Thyself, which is a prolific book. There is no look. There is no look. You know, I had the pleasure of coming into my spiritual awakening in New York City, and boy, that will show you there is no look. I have been at the cosmic consciousness conventions in Central Park with all of the granola eating, with no shoes on. We did a whole circle of massaging and grounding, and all the Reiki kids was out, the crystals were out. But I've also been to Afropunk. I've also been to Brooklyn for the African American Festival. I've also been to consciousness festivals. I've also gone to scientific parts of the community who are spiritual and who studied neuroscience and who studied all these things. There is no look. So anybody who comes on trying to tell you that there's an aesthetic once you get your spirituality together is a lie. It's like these people who are like, oh, if you believe in Christianity, you have to have the modest look, the clean girl look. That no, you don't. No, you don't. No, you don't. The only requirement is to love God. That's it. So anybody selling you an aesthetic and selling you a brand that you have to embody in how you express, anybody who's trying to alter how you express authentically isn't spiritual, because they would understand that each of our souls came here with a unique blueprint, and we chose this specific avatar, and we chose to customize it based on the wantings of our soul, and that is unique. It shouldn't look like anyone else. Nobody can tell me that I'm spiritual in one outfit or not the other. Now, am I going to wear all white when I do divination and do my things? Yes, but then you're going to see me in leather pants and a pair of J's the day after that. Hello? And I'm always going to be wearing lots of jewelry. There is nothing that takes away from my spirituality because I like to get my nails done. Are we cool? So, I say that to say, there's a lot of BS out there. You don't have to take in everything you hear as law. Hell, you don't have to take what I'm saying as law. Do your own research. Have your own boundaries. Don't let people try to change who you are simply because you're a spiritual seeker. Spirituality is supposed to help you find yourself, not feel more lost. So if you're following anybody and you feel more lost after listening to what they said, please unfollow them, because it's bad for your spiritual health. And that's actually what I care about. I care about, are we living in survival mode and scrambling for ways out and using disinformation and grabbing onto it, which is like grabbing onto air? Or are we learning real systems, thought patterns, frameworks, beliefs, and ways of living that will allow us to operate at our highest frequency? Because that's what I do. The BS, I don't have that to do. And if it's hurting people, I really don't have that to do further. So here on this channel, we clear it up. We make it clear. I'm going to be talking a lot more about this stuff. I want you guys to do me a favor, please, if you made it this far. Drop down in the comments and let me know what questions you have. Because I'm also going to do another video breaking down some common terms that are confusing for people. NDEs, out-of-body experiences, quantum physics, timeline jumping. I think we might need to do another video like this on those topics and misconceptions. But I want to hear what your questions are. What you'd like to see out of this channel, things that you want to learn as you're on your spiritual journey, things that are confusing you. Let me know. Maybe I can answer those questions for you. I'd love to. So with that being said, I hope you enjoyed this video. Share it with a friend if you did. Like and subscribe, because that helps us grow this little community that we're growing. And as always, I love you.